Hit the now. And yeah, I can just start us off by giving a little intro to the center, and then I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Pamela. So,
Okay.
welcome, folks. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Justin Carter. I'm a project associate for the Center for Rural Affairs. If you're unfamiliar with the center, we're a little nonprofit. We are located in a small town called Lyons, Nebraska, in northeast Nebraska. We do a wide variety of work with rural communities, small business assistance and micro lending. We do work on rural policy at the state and the federal level. And then we also do a lot of grassroots food systems work, inclusion work with new immigrant communities in Nebraska, and work with our Native American communities as well, with the Omaha Nation and the Santee Sioux tribes. So thank you so much for being here tonight. This is our first session in what's going to be a series over the next 2 weeks, learning from Indigenous cooperatives across the nation. So happy to have you, and thanks so much to Pamela Standing, who's going to be facilitating for us. Pamela, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Osio Nagata. I'm Pamela Standing, and I'm the executive director for the Minnesota Indigenous Business Alliance. And we've been doing a lot of work researching cooperatives in the US and telling those stories. And tonight we're really honored to have Dream of Wild Health, which is an organization in Minnesota, and they're not a cooperative, but they have such a beautiful model, and they've been around for so many years, and they're inspiring what they've done with their program, how they've grown their farm and really expanded all of their programs. Are just beautiful. And so tonight we have Neely Snyder, who is the executive director, and we have Felicia Galvin, and she is now a seed intern. She started out as a garden warrior and a youth leader, and now she's a seed intern. And we have Jessica Greendeer, who is she's like the seed keeper, the seed manager, and the farm manager for Dream of Wild Health. And Neely, you just let me know how you want me to move these slides, and I'll let you start and introduce Dream of Wild Health.
All right, thanks Justin. Thanks Pamela for this opportunity. Bonjour, hello everyone. My name is Neely Snyder. I am St. Croix Ojibwe from Wisconsin, but I grew up in Minnesota. I'm also a direct descendant of Red Lake Nation and Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe, which are both in Minnesota. I am the executive director at Dream of Wild Health, and I just want to say thank you for this opportunity to share the story about Dream of Wild Health with you. And I appreciate 2 of our staff members also joining us. So I'll just kind of give you an intro about Dream of Wild Health. And I apologize, I'm doing this from my vehicle. My daughter's in a softball tournament literally right behind me. So I kind of had to, go with the punches here. So I appreciate you putting up with this scenery and whatever. Hopefully nothing happens. Hopefully no balls hit my truck. So yeah, Pamela, I'll just get started, and I'll just let you know when I'd like you to advance the slide, and then I'll also incorporate Jessica and Felicia as I'm going through the presentation. So Dream of Wild Health is a Native-led nonprofit serving the Native community mainly in the Twin Cities area, which is Minneapolis and St. Paul of Minnesota. These are the homelands of Dakota and Ojibwe, and we often say that we grow seeds and leaders. Advance to the next slide, please. So our mission is to restore health and well-being in the Native community by recovering knowledge of and access to healthy Indigenous foods, medicines, and lifeways. In Minneapolis, we have a large Native American population, and we also have an office located on the American Indian Corridor, which is the Franklin Avenue in South Minneapolis. And there are like several other organizations in that same community who are serving nonprofits or nonprofit led. We've been around for over 20 years. Dream of Wild Health began as a program of another nonprofit organization that provided transitional and supporting housing supportive services to Native Americans in that community. And in response to the client's requests for reconnection with their cultural heritage, Dream of Wild Health was created in 1998 to reclaim the traditional relationship between the people and the earth. It kept coming up again. So our founding director, Sally Auger, started off working with the community, and they kept asking for this. And so at that time, she leased a half an acre of land in Farmington, Minnesota, which is quite a drive from Minneapolis, and brought participants out there. She would load up a van, and they really loved it. And they enjoyed being there, working with the land and the soil and getting back to their native roots. And yeah, so Sally, you can advance the next slide. Our founding director, Sally, began growing her grandmother's seeds as well as seeds that people had donated over the years. And in the year 2000, a Potawatomi elder named Cora Baker donated her collection of heritage seeds to the organization, and that created more interest in the program. It also set this vision that the seeds are here for our future generations, which it's incredibly important that we treat our seeds as our relatives and we continue to grow, protect, and preserve them. Next slide, please. So we have been growing these seeds for years, but it actually wasn't until the beginning of 2019 that we hired our first team of Indigenous seed keepers, or seed staff, I guess, who are dedicated to caring for those seeds and growing them out. To our knowledge, we had the only Indigenous seed team in the country, so we didn't know of any other organizations who had Indigenous staff dedicated to caring for those seeds. Dream of Wild Health is home to one of the largest collections of Indigenous seeds in the region, and that collection has been slowly growing over time, with gifts of seeds pouring in from Native seed keepers, farmers, community members across the country. I guess increasingly the seed collection must be actively maintained and grown more frequently to adapt to the changing climate needs, or the changing climate. Our seed team is dedicated to rematriating many of those seeds back to their tribal communities across the country. So we're working with several tribes to bring those back to their communities. Next slide, please. In 2004, Dream of Wild Health purchased a 10-acre farm in Hugo, Minnesota, which is about a 40-minute drive north of the Twin Cities. And we say, you know, our farm is our safe place for our youth and families. It's a place where we protect the seeds as our ancestors. We have summer youth programs at the farm. We host farm tours once in a while when we can, mainly in the spring and the fall when we don't have our youth there. And this is where we grow all of our produce. We have a native pollinator meadow, an orchard of elderberry, buffalo berries, some other berries, and gosh, we have so much going on there, and we've expanded so much over the years. And later in 2012, as this work became the primary focus of the organization, we had changed our name to Dream of Wild Health. So it started out as Petawakan Teepee in 1986, 88, and then in 2012 we changed our name to Dream of Wild Health. Fast forward to last year in March, we tripled our farm size from 10 acres to 30 acres, and this will allow more opportunities for us to work with our youth and families and the community, and also increase healthy food access in our community. This will eventually become incubator space for new Native farmers, and we can connect them with wholesale opportunities in our Native community, and that's kind of where we prioritize those. Next slide, please. So last year, our farm distributed 8.25 tons of food into the community, and of that, 6,000 pounds were donated. So, you know, with the pandemic and with the civil uprising right in Minneapolis, we saw the urgent need to, you know, bring food into the community and to make sure that we were providing that. So our farmers started growing a lot sooner than they normally would, and started making sure that we had a zero waste policy, all the produce that we grew went out to the community. We donated to organizations who are feeding Native Americans in the community, and directly to our families as well. So in 2019, just to give you an idea of how much we expanded just in the last year, we distributed about 7.5 tons of vegetables into the community in prior years. So with this food, we've fed hundreds of Native youth families through our youth programs. We participate in farmers markets. We have an Indigenous food share, which is a CSA model, and also just through community events and workshops and food distribution efforts in our community. At this point, I would love to hand it off to our seed keeper and farm manager, Jessica Greendeer. So she was actually our very first hire on the seed team to start caring for those seeds. And she's really been able to, really lift this up and really expand our production on the farm. So Jessica.
Thank you so much, Neely. Hijan Kishina Hinikariwina, Hochangrajadagi Sadasadic Maninga Ngade. I greet each and every one of you. My name is Jessica Greendeer. I'm a member of the Ho-Chunk Nation and the Deer Clan. I've joined Dream of Wild Health back in 2019, and it's been an exciting 3 growing seasons, or I guess 2.5 growing seasons so far. The beautiful part about the work at Dream of Wild Health is that it is focused with our youth. So much of all of our hopes and wishes, not just mine, Felicia's and Neely's, but, going back to our previous executive director and our founding director, knowing that the answer to food sovereignty lies within our youth. And, that's been completely evident during our program time, where so many things that the youth are looking to learn from us, we're able to learn just as much from them as well, to think about the take that they see, or the perspectives that they bring to the table. Our work is, farming. You can look at it as every single year you're doing something brand new, or maybe you're adding something new. But the truth is that everything that we're doing, not only with being able to provide food in the community, but being able to regenerate the soils of the earth, and get those ready for our future farmers coming behind us, is that everything that we do is for our future generations. And not many people can say that. Every day within our program time, we have the opportunity to look our youth in the face and know that we're either doing our best, or there are things that we can improve, and wanting to make sure that we give them the very best possible head start that they can have, as we are sort of navigating through an uncertain climate, and so many other things along with that. I think both Neely and I had no idea that we would be blessed to triple our land base going into the future. And I think the beautiful part about that is it's not about just getting acres and acres of land to look at. It's knowing that any community members within the Native population of the Twin Cities, if they don't have land access, with land access being one of the largest pushbacks for any member of the BIPOC communities, they have the ability to come to Dream of Wild Health and not only learn how to farm, learn how to steward, but also take all of those elements that they're growing, and be able to turn it around into like a social enterprise project. Having the land base to work in a community kitchen as well as a packing facility provides our future generations with the capabilities to not only feed their family, the community, but also looking at how they're going to look across the region and see how they can also support other communities there. It's a really exciting time at Dream of Wild Health. But honestly, I feel like every day is a really exciting time. And I'm not just saying that because my boss is here either. It really, truly is. You know, I'm so grateful that that we have the team that we do, that we can continue to look forward to the future and see how we can best support one another, as well as building up our collective future. I did just want to touch on the seed stewardship. You know, I know in the Omaha community, they're looking for some of the Omaha seeds and trying to find them in different institutions. And I really wish the best for them because I know that they're out there somewhere, and I hope that they're able to reconnect with those seeds. Much of the work that we do at Dream of Wild Health is not only taking care of stewarding the collection that we currently have from not only Sally's grandmother, but Cora's collection, as well as seeds that came in from community. We're also working on seed rematriation. And that just means we're not only bringing seeds out from different institutions to grow at the farm with us and then send back out into their home communities, but also looking at ways we can help support other folks out there as they continue to try to find their own relatives. We've been working with Seed Savers Exchange for the last 3 years in an effort to reclaim some of those Indigenous seeds within their collection, bring them home, help grow with them for a year, and then send them back out. And there's, you know, I think we're living in a very different time where there has been so many efforts, not just with seed, but thinking of our ancestors who've ended up in different places where they're able to return home now. I know there was just a ceremony last week about that. And so, you know, I think we're in a very different time where that energy is sort of moving to help support the work of Native people and the work that's being done at Dream of Wild Health. So I don't know if we can continue to be of any service, but would love to connect with you all again on the seed work if there's any way that we can help support that. Next slide. Neely, do we want to kick it back to you first?
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. As you can tell, Jessica is a wealth of knowledge about the seed work and the important work that we're doing on our farm. She also manages the farm and so oversees all the soil regeneration work that we're doing. We have a market team, a seed team, and that has been growing over time. And that's, you know, I think Jessica's had a huge hand in that. So we really love working with Jessica, and she's really dedicated to the farm there. So I'll talk a little bit about our youth program. So at Dream of Wild Health, we offer Native youth education and leadership programs where we provide Native youth from the urban area with skills needed to preserve the land and environment. We work to deepen their connection with culture. We increase their knowledge of healthy foods and medicines and develop skills needed to succeed in life. And during our youth programs, we have a resident Indigenous chef who prepares a daily breakfast, snack, and lunch each day with much of the produce coming directly from the farm. And also our youth get a chance to work with those chefs in the kitchen. And so they get to, you know, see what it's like to prepare the food, to try the food as you're cooking it, to try different recipes, you know, and just work with the food and learn from that, you know. So we are hoping that they are going home and taking this education back to their families and that they take this through life. You know, we're just trying to make sure that our people are living the healthiest way possible and bring back that, you know, the traditional foods and kind of decolonize our diets and things. So that's really important. It's also really important to be working on the farm. So they get to help harvest things. They get to help plant the seeds. So they get to be involved in all of this stuff, and we're hoping that they one day come back. So as I said, we primarily work with urban Native youth from the Twin Cities and surrounding areas. these, I guess this includes our summer programs that are at the farm. And we also have a year-round youth leaders program. So next slide, please. Our Cora's Kids program, those youth are ages 8 through 12. We usually host 2 one-week programs at our farm where the youth learn about gardening, seeds, nutrition, cooking, and being respectful of other people and our environment. So on this photo, you'll see that Jessica is teaching the youth a lesson in the garden and showing them some seeds. Next slide, please. So once our youth have gotten through our Cora's Kids program, we have our Garden Warriors program, and those are ages 13 to 18. And this is a more intense program. We host 2 3-week sessions, which is more extensive. They get to learn more about farming, health, cooking, harvesting, culture, and spirituality. And they get to participate in community events such as the farmers markets. So last year was very different year because of COVID, so many changes happened, but we're hoping that this year that some of our youth get to go back out into the farmers markets. And I'll just tell you, like, I've gone down to the farmers market where our youth are at and just picking up a vegetable that I've never seen before, and I'm like, what is this? Can you tell me about this? They know way more than I do. I'm learning from them and ask them how I can cook it, and they knew, and I'm like, wow, you guys are amazing. But yeah, thankfully we were able to have our summer youth programs last season. It looks significantly different, but our program and farm team did an amazing job in modifying everything at the farm so that our youth and our staff were safe. During our summer programs, we practice social distancing. We're wearing masks. It's mandatory for everyone. We obviously are practicing more hand washing. We have hand washing stations, and sanitizing efforts have increased, and we changed our transportation. So we do transport some of our youth from Minneapolis and St. Paul to our farm in Hugo. And since COVID, we've kind of asked, when parents, if parents are willing to transport their youth, and that kind of helps out to keep us spaced in the vans. Next slide, please. Oh, and I should have told you that this is our kitchen. That was our kitchen, the previous photo at the farm. And so here, and this is Nicole, I believe, right? I think she is one of our interns that are working with us this season. All right, next slide. So our youth leaders program is where they advance from, yep, other way. There we go. Our youth leaders program is a year-round opportunity for our youth to get involved in food justice and food advocacy in the community. They get to participate in more educational and outreach opportunities in the broader community. Through this program, we developed a chef internship project that switched to from in-person to a virtual model. And that has now become a pretty popular project with some of our local schools. And so we've partnered with them to do some traditional teachings with the Indigenous foods, and then would drop off ingredients at the youth home, and they would turn around and get on Zoom, and they would work with a chef, and then they would cook a meal for their family. So this became a really popular project in the last couple of years, and we're looking to continue that going forward. And this is also Garden Warriors and Youth Leaders is a project, are both programs that Felicia has gone through herself. And she had come back to intern with us and as a staff member at the Dream of Wild Health Farm. And that is exactly what our founding director had envisioned for this, for Dream of Wild Health. We want to get the youth involved. We want to teach them the skills they need. And we want them to come back eventually. We want them interested in this as a lifelong journey. And so I invite Felicia, our seed intern, to talk a little bit about her experiences at Dream of Wild Health and where she is at now. So with that, I will hand that off to you, Felicia.
Thank you there, Neely. Pamela, actually, you can advance to the next slide. I think there's a few pictures of me, actually. Um, let's see. Yeah, actually, first I'll introduce myself. Bujun and Dinaway Magani Duk, Opachi and Daguni Daj, Felicia Indigenous Cause, Gawababi Ganikag, Ishkonikaning Nindun Jaba, and Miigwech. Oh, hi everybody. My name is Felicia Galvan. I am a former garden warrior and youth leader alumna, and I am now a seed intern, but I wanted to introduce myself in the language since that was one of the most valuable lessons I actually got as a youth at Dream of Wild Health. You can see in that picture on the right there, it's my parents, my younger sister, and our founding director, Sally Auger. And that photo was taken after one of my first sessions completions as a garden warrior, and we were having a feast. And at the feast is where the staff and not only the program staff and the farm staff, but all staff working in the offices and our executive director would come out to the farm, and we would all celebrate a happy session. And I think that really sums up the community that the programs really build. At Dream of Wild Health, youth programs really build. So I wanted to introduce myself in my language. I learned that from Hope Flanagan, who is still on program staff now, and she's teaching our current youth. And yeah, thinking back to when I was a youth, it wasn't all that too long ago, actually. I've been grateful to learn so much about not only culture and food, but also just what I feel, what it means to be a Native person for myself, actually. I strongly believe that while being a youth at the Dream of Wild Health programs, I was able to find comfort with my indigeneity. And as Neely and Jessica had mentioned earlier, our programs and organization is based in the Twin Cities area, Minneapolis, and I myself grew up in a suburb in the surrounding area. And I knew, as as a youth and a student in school, that I didn't really look like people around me all of the time. So for the longest time, I really felt like I didn't know who I was or I wasn't Native enough, but going to program was one of the biggest contributors to my now found confidence with being Indigenous. And I think some of the biggest ways that the program was able to help me with that was not only building or teaching about culture, and we've learned lots of lessons ranging from languages like our introductions, which is a way that we present ourselves to the community, and letting community know both community as in both the individuals there, but also acknowledging Indigenous people's lands and spirits that are there. And we learned some songs a lot, some that I still carry with me to this day. And I also learned a lot from Ernie Whiteman, our former, who has now passed. I think he was the cultural teacher, if I remember his title correctly. But lots about tobacco pouches and a lot of cultural aspects that I don't think I would have been able to connect with or learn about had I not been part of the program. So I really find value in that, and I can see that in the youth today now. Neely also mentioned a lot of skills that youth are able to do, whether it's in the gardens. I, being a suburban kid, didn't know. I knew what a garden was. Hearing a farm, though, I always thought it was like, oh, there's going to be pigs. Granted, we did have chickens at the time, but it really expanded being part of the program really expanded my knowledge of food and what it means to think about food in a holistic sense. So as Neely was saying earlier, I was, as a youth, was able to spend time in the garden with other farmers who just astounded me with their knowledge. Some of my favorite memories are I would be weeding and I'd pull something up and I'd be like, what is this? And the farmer who I was working with would tell me 10 or different things about this one plant, and I was like, this is so cool. And actually my first experience being with Dream of Wild Health, I was hazelnut picking in a wooded area with some other youth and program staff, and I stepped into a hive of some sort that was on the ground, and I remember booking it out of the the wooded area that we were hazelnut picking. And Hope Flanagan, as I mentioned, is one of our program staff now, and who, when I was in program, she plucked a leaf off the ground and she chewed it up and put it on my wound where I got stung. And I just thought, like, right then and there, I'm like, that's what I want to do. There's so much value in learning our Indigenous ways and learning from our Indigenous plant relatives that are around us. So gardening really helped me do that. And then as I was mentioning about the holisticness of it, using the food that we did harvest from the garden and then turning into the kitchen area where youth are allowed to, or youth are exploring with the chefs, how to make food, explore new tastes, and skills to keep themselves safe in the kitchen. So I thought all of those were really super important skills that I learned. And I did take those with me into college, actually. After I had finished my time with the program, I finished up high school. I did a year or two of college at the University of Minnesota-Morris. And it was there that I was working with an office called the Center for Small Towns, which is an office that pairs small towns consisting of 5,000, a population of 5,000 or less, and pairing university resources to aid in projects that that the town we're working with has in mind. So I was actually paired with a nonprofit in a nonprofit of the Red Lake Reservation. And the project I worked on with Red Lake was actually about farming equipment, and they had similar goals on having a demonstration farm where they would allow Red Lake community members to come to this farm, learn how to garden, how to self-sustain, and learn how to grow their own food, in hopes of creating a local food economy. So I was really lucky to have the background that I did with Dream of Wild Health. And actually, I greatly owe the individual who assigned me to that project with the Red Lake project, because it really did help me find my way back to Dream of Wild Health, actually. So knowing that I had this experience as a youth leader and as a garden warrior while I was in college, I was able to call back on some of those connections that I had, and I was able to reconnect not only with Dream of Wild Health, but feeling like I found an area of work that I really want to devote myself to. So I was able to reconnect again with Hope during that time, one of the previous farm managers, Heather Drake, and after being so inspired by that, I decided I want to, I really feel fulfilled while working with these people. So I was able to reach out to our Jessica, our current farm manager, and I was able to join the team in the summer of 2020 as a seasonal farmer. And I had such a great time there. And now, so it's 2021 now. You can see that picture on the left is when I'm at the farmer's market, actually, as an adult, no longer a youth, a graduated adult. But I think now being older and seeing how the youth programs are working now, I can really see a lot. I see a lot more value, and it's not that it wasn't there when I was a youth. I think now that I have a little bit of growth and that I'm in part of the staff now, I'm really able to see even more, a lot of the, excuse me, I'm getting a little nervous here. I'm able to see a lot of the value that the programs offer, even beyond what I was able to acknowledge when I was a youth myself. So now I'm seeing how the farm creates a really safe space for youth to share their stories, to explore their identity, to oops. Oh, there it is. Sorry about that. To explore their identities and to ask questions. I can see and really truly believe that those staff that we have now have or give their unconditional support to the youth. And I think seeing that now, I'm just astounded and so grateful that we have programs that support youth in their growth as they begin exploring what it means to be Native if they haven't done that already, and the importance of food sovereignty. And with that too, one of the things that I am most astounded to see and most that makes me feel so powerful every time is when we circle up in the mornings, actually, both with staff and as youth. And everybody has a voice, which I think is super powerful, because in a lot of spaces, youth don't have a chance to to use their voice in a way that is advocating for themselves. I would say there's a lot of spaces out there that I think that don't know quite how to tune in. So allowing youth to have their own voice and speak with that, I think, is super powerful, and something that now as a staff member I'm able to appreciate even beyond than what I was able to as a youth. So all in all, I just am super grateful to be back on the team, be back with Dream Wild Health, and see how these future generations are coming, and they're excited to be in these spaces and learn. So that's what I have about my time, and I am excited to see which youth come forward and speak next on their experiences. So thank you so much for having me, and I'm good to advance the slide.
Thank you, Felicia. That was such a great story, and we're so lucky that we can have you on the team. And it's just so incredible to see how far Felicia has come through the programs, and she's back at Dream of Wild Health, and she's now working with our youth and is like such a great mentor and such a great role model for our youth to come back, and they really enjoy talking to her, and I know she really enjoys talking to them. So it's just so amazing to see that whole transformation and coming back. So yeah, next slide, please. We just have a few more to go through, or maybe just a couple more. So we, as I mentioned earlier, we often host community outreach and education workshops about gardening, sacred medicines, seed saving, preservation, traditional foods, healthy cooking and nutrition. Gosh, you name it. We've done so many workshops over the years, and we continue to do that, and we continue to be creative. And since the pandemic, we've switched many of our workshops to a virtual format. We still plan to continue with this option going forward, but we're really looking forward to getting back into the community and working in person. We often partner with our Indigenous Food Network partners on some of these workshops, and you'll see a few of our partners in the upper right photo there. This was at one of the farmers markets, I believe, in 2019. So none of us are wearing masks at that time, but yeah. Farmers market's a great place to be. We would often do food demos. So that's kind of what was about to happen here, as we were working with Chef Brian Yazzie and some of our partners to do this food demo. I think this was probably our farmers market day. So we had a lot of people there that day, but awesome to be out in the community and sharing this knowledge. And on the bottom right, you'll see Hope Flanagan. She does a lot of our traditional education and foods and medicines. She's just like a wealth of knowledge. It's wonderful to learn from her. And on the left is another example of one of our youth alumni who had come back for 2 years as a seasonal farmer. So she had also worked through the programs and came back. And so it's just so amazing to see that. Next slide, please. So I talked a little bit about our Indigenous Food Network. It is a partnership of Native organizations in our community who are working together to reclaim the traditional food system. And the mission is stated there right for you. Network building helps us influence long-term systems change needed to improve the overall health of our community. And that's the main reason why it was founded. So my predecessor, the executive director before me, Diane Wilson, had worked with a lot of the Native communities or a lot of the Native organizations in our community right along the American Indian Cultural Corridor. And they wanted to work together to build food sovereignty in our own community. And so what we're doing is leveraging the resources from one another. And, you know, we've come a long way. We have our own logo now. We've got our mission, we have our vision. And we're creating more opportunities for, you know, just sharing that knowledge and increasing healthy food access in our communities. So with that, I think we can land on our final slides. Just talks a little bit about how you can connect with us if you're interested in reaching out. You know, obviously right now it's an extremely busy season, but we try to partner with whoever we can when we are able to. We are a small but mighty staff. I think we're growing now too, and that's just because of the expansion. If you weren't here for the beginning of this presentation, I did talk about how we've expanded our farm from 10 acres to 30. So we have quite a bit of work to do going forward, but we really want to bring up our Native farmers and create more opportunities to bring in healthy foods into the community. So here are some ways you can connect with us. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And I think we could, if anyone has any questions, we'd be happy to answer.
Just go ahead and unmute if you'd like to ask questions.
Wow, Jessica and Felicia, we've covered it all. Great job.
You guys did a beautiful job. Oh my gosh, I'm just even more inspired. And I could just see you beaming when Felicia was talking. Oh, Felicia, you're such a beautiful young woman. You've got such a beautiful spirit, and it means so much more when we hear from our younger people, and and those things are in your words. And I was almost crying. I was so happy inside listening to you talk, and I did well up, but I mean I wasn't blubbering, but it just was so I have so much hope with the young people that are coming now, this younger generation that are coming up. I'm so hopeful about how you guys are going to take care of things when us old folks are gone.
Well, we will definitely learn all that we can. So thank you for being here to teach and for welcoming us so wholeheartedly. There it is.
Miss
Yeah,
Tristan. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Sorry about that. The youth are our future, and the more we teach them, the more they can teach younger generations. So, we're thinking ahead 7 generations. We got to take care of ourselves, give them the tools they need and the knowledge they need so that we can still have this land and still have our health. So that's so incredibly important to us. And yeah. And Felicia and others are carrying that torch forward, and we're just so proud of them.
Miss Trista, did you have any questions? You're muted.
Hi, sorry, I'm just, my son's at hockey practice. Time for practicing, I guess. Actually, I just had one question, and that was, how was, how are the knowledge keepers and the ones who know about the seeds, and when the initiative first started, how were they encouraged to participate or share the knowledge? So was it just kind of free will, or I'm just thinking of other projects where kind of the elders and the knowledge keepers actually require compensation, or do they just, is it more of a traditional sharing of knowledge?
Well, I'm sure, so many communities do things very differently. And so one thing that we do at Dream of Wild Health is, well, we're an intertribal organization. And so we respect other organization or other, their tribe or family does. And so when we're talking about the way that we do things, we're just saying this is how we've been taught and this is the way I do things. But I think, maybe Jessica, if you have some a response for that, I'd invite you to go ahead and speak on that.
Yeah, thank you, Neely. Trista, I hope this answers your question. At least what I was told when seeds first started coming in and some of the information or stories came along with those seeds, it was those seed keepers and knowledge holders from various communities that were essentially looking to ensure the continued existence of their particular seed relative. And so I'm not privy to anything else that was going on behind the scenes, but the beautiful part about that work is that when I had reached out to some of the people that I know in each of those communities for information, that's when some of them said, I haven't seen that seed before. And so we were able to, not only did that seed come from that community, but then it ended up being able to go home. And so, I think it can be framed in so many different ways. Of course, there are organizations out there, like even the Indigenous Seed Keepers Network, that I know they help support different growers and do a growers collective. But there are, I'm sure there are other organizations, that's at least who I'm familiar with. And so hopefully you'll be able to find that. But I think it really just depends on what you're trying to achieve, and that energy you put out there. The people who need to hear that message will be there to support.
Thank you very much.
I have a question about the seeds. She had to leave, the woman from Omaha, but I know they're looking for their seeds. Are there places around the country where they have ethnobotanists that have collected seeds from all over that are sitting in some sort of a museum? Because we were given tobacco seeds that were probably 400 years old, and we've started them. And, so I know that those seeds, if they've been taken care of properly in a good way, we have seed pots where I'm from, where we store our seeds, through the winter. And, but I was just wondering, how does someone go about, repatriating, bringing things back home, if they know that there's seeds that are stored somewhere? I mean, how does someone go about doing that?
That's a great question, Pam. I think that's so awesome that you were all reconnected with a tobacco seed from 400 years ago. That's so beautiful to hear. Um, there's lots of efforts. The reason I had heard about Omaha looking for their seed is that somebody else had asked me if I had heard, if I knew where to locate them. So, it's a lot of it is being able to network with people. One of the partners I think we have in common is Dr. Christina Hill out of Iowa State. With the Three Sisters Soil Study. And when she was a grad student, she actually made a list of all the indigenous seeds that she could find and where they were actually located. So that included not only the USDA, their germplasm collection. I hate to say germplasm, it's seed.
Yeah.
There's seed libraries, but then also different seed houses. And so finding her list a few years ago, I was able to find some of the locations of even where my ancestral seeds were located. So, there are those few little resources. Unfortunately, it's not enough. And a lot of it is being patient, but it's also needing to have that curiosity to ask those questions, to ask and see. For the most part, with many institutions, NAGPRA is a big hurdle or speed bump. So, when things get tied up into, into the legal rooms of places, the sad part about our seeds is they're running out of time. They don't have 10 years to continue to wait. And so Pamela, to answer your question, there are lots of seeds in lots of places, and also lots of places that they don't belong.
Yeah.
But, like what, conversations that I've had with Felicia, but also our youth, is that we can think about trying to create a jailbreak and break all of our seeds out of all of these places and bring them home. But our seeds are also there because they're waiting for us to be ready again. They're waiting for us to be ready to be able to grow with them. And so, we are coming out of a time of when our seeds needed to go to those places to stay safe. But now we need to focus on those basics again so we can all bring them home.
Oh, I love that. Wado. Does anyone else have any questions? Well, we want to thank you so much for taking the time to share with us. And we have people that aren't going to be here tonight, but they'll be able to watch the video. And I know that they'll be equally inspired, watching the rerun of your beautiful words. And so I'll look forward to watching it again and encouraging people to visit and, and watch the video, because there's this movement happening and I'm so excited about it. It's people are waking up to what's important, and taking care of our relatives in a good way. And something that I'm always really, I always want to find out what people's gathering songs are. Because we had gathering songs, and to me, they're so beautiful. And even the practices, like where I'm from, when we're gathering, you always talk to that chief plant. And you talk to that plant about, I'm coming to take some of your relatives, and this is how we're going to use them. And then we put that gift down, for those plants. And we take every other plant. We don't just go through and clear cut, and that's something we've learned from home, where people over gathered and the medicines hid, to protect themselves because people were taking too much. And but I'm really excited that you guys what you're sharing with the youth there, all those beautiful gifts that they're going to have, and just that awareness of the connection to these relatives, and that they're living, they have a spirit. It's so beautiful. So Wado, thank you so much. And thank you for Justin for making this possible. And thank you, women. Yeah, so we'll see you guys. I'm in the cities now, so I'll come to visit you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, and exactly what you're talking about. That's what we're teaching our youth. So, that really resonates with us. And thank you so much, Miigwech, for this opportunity. And it was so nice to meet you and have a chance to talk to you.
Well, I hope your girl wins her games.
I'm about to go find out. I think there's about 15 minutes left.
Oh, you better get going. Get going. Thank you so much. You guys have a lovely night. All
Thank you
right.
so much. Take care.
So Justin, you'll stop the recording and then we'll save it. Trista.